Gate of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters fallen this week. The first guy is Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies. So Story, a free agent after this season here, and obviously he wants to have a big season and get the big contract either from the Rockies or another ball club. But so far this season for Story, it's been a mediocre to poor season. 5 home runs, 23 RBIs. 255 batting average, a 322 on base percentage, but he does have 26 runs scored and 8 stolen bases. But right here, it's been a total tough season for Story. And in the last couple weeks, he's fallen even more with only 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 4 runs scored, a 196 batting average, and a 241 on base percentage. So right here, Story, it's been a struggle. And obviously with Nolan Arenado out of town over there in Colorado, that's a lot of protection leaving that offense. And this season, it just hasn't been the same for Story. And he was a player drafted in the mid to late first round of most fantasy drafts. And right now, he's been kind of a bust so far this season. And he keeps falling down the rankings each and every week. The last few games for Story, May 22nd, versus Arizona, 1 for 4 with a run. May 23rd versus Arizona, 2 for 5 with a homer and 2 RBIs. May 24th at the Mets, 1 for 4. And then the doubleheader, May 27th at the Mets, 1 for 4 with a stolen base. So right here, Story, he's just got to get things going. And hopefully this weekend versus Pittsburgh, he could pick things up and get going. Because right now, he's been a bust, especially for a first-round pick. And he's falling fast. Right now, the second hitter is Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets. So Lindor, it's been a horrible season for him, and he's been on the falling list a few times this season, and he's going to continue to be on it. So far this season, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, a 185 batting average, a 290 on base, and 19 runs scored. So it's been a total train wreck this season for Lindor, who signed on the dawn of opening day a contract extension for the Mets for 10 years, $341 million, and he's here in the Bluebirds. He's obviously not performing anywhere near what he did with the Cleveland Indians the last 8 or 9 seasons here. And Lindor, the last couple weeks, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 3 runs scored, a 146 batting average, and a 212 on base. So I don't know if this guy's going to get out of the slump. It just seems like each and every week it gets worse and worse here for Francisco Lindor. And he's been a total disaster for this Met team. And even though this Met team, a lot of injuries they're dealing with, they're still winning games most of the time here. But Lindor, he hasn't been a part of it. And he's only got 2 hits, Lindor, in his last 6 games. So May 22nd in Miami, 1 for 3. May 23rd in Miami, 0 for 4. May 24th versus the Rockies, 0 for 4. May 25th versus the Rockies, 0 for 3 with a bag. And May 27th, 1 for 6 in that doubleheader. So right here, Lindor, it's just been a total struggle. And I don't know if this guy's going to break out at all this season. Last season, the numbers were down a little for him with only a 258 batting average and 8 home runs in the 2-month season. But so far this season, it's been way worse than it was last season. So he's falling. The next hitter is Anthony Rendon of the Los Angeles Angels. Another guy here who got a big contract a few seasons ago here from this Angel team. And he was a total stud, an MVP candidate and batting champion with the Washington Nationals. Over those seasons, he was there. But so far this season here, even though I know he missed 2 or 3 weeks early on, he's been a total as well. 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, a 215 batting average, 303 on base, and 14 runs scored for Rendon. And going to the last couple weeks, 143 average, 250 on base with no home runs, 2 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. So Rendon, who's usually a 290 to 300 hitter at minimum, he just can't get anything going so far this season. And he was a player drafted probably the 4th or 5th round of most fantasy drafts. And he's another bust like Lindor and Story so far. So right now, it's been an abysmal season for Rendon. And he just keeps falling down the rankings with a ranking on the season of 688. And the last couple weeks, that ranking's fallen to 876. And the last few games for Rendon, May 21st versus Oakland, 0 for 3. May 22nd versus Oakland, 0 for 4. May 23rd versus Oakland, 0 for 2. May 25th versus Texas, 0 for 5. May 26th versus Texas, 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. And May 27th at Oakland, 0 for 4. So Rendon, he only has 1 hit now in his last 7 games. And that's a total disaster right here for Rendon, the Angels, and fantasy owners. And right now, he's fallen quickly this week. The next hitter fallen is Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers. But Christian Yelich, he's a player I recommended in buy low and trade for a couple days ago in the videos. And so far this season, it's been a small sample size. Yelich, he's been on the injured list twice already this year. So only in 57 at-bats, a 246 average, 386 on base, which is still pretty good for the 245 batting average. 1 homer, 4 RBIs, 11 runs, and he does have 4 stolen bases, which he had last season in 200 at-bats. So right here, Yelich, though, the last couple of weeks, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 3 runs scored, an awful low 87 batting average, and a 276 on base. So right here, it's been a disaster for Yelich as well. But the injuries early in the season haven't helped, and to be honest, I probably think he's not 100% is Yelich, and it's definitely hurting his fantasy value, and it's definitely hurting the Milwaukee Brewers. They gave this guy big money. He's the former MVP a few seasons ago, but right now he looks a shell of himself, and especially with those back injuries, like I mentioned in other videos, we've seen it in careers of guys like David Wright and Don Mattingly, and right now Christian Yelich isn't looking right, and he's falling fast down the rankings. And the last few games for him, May 22nd at Cincinnati, pinched hit 0 for 1. May 23rd at Cincinnati, 2 for 4 with a homer and 2 RBIs. May 25th versus San Diego, 0 for 4. May 26th versus San Diego, 0 for 3. And May 27th, he pinched hit in that one, 0 for 1, with a run and a stolen base. So right now, it's been bad for Yelich here. And the fifth and final hitter falling this week's J.D. Martinez of the Boston Red Sox. So Martinez, he was off to an amazing start early in the season. And his numbers on the year, they're still solid. 12 home runs, 37 RBIs, a 319 batting average, and a 393 on base percentage. But the last couple weeks, he's hit a little bit of a tailspin, ranked 13th on the season, but the last couple weeks, 426 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, a 244 batting average, and a 295 on base with 7 runs scored. So those numbers are way down for where Martinez was early in the season. And last season, we only saw Martinez hit 213 with 7 home runs. So I think his start was a little fluky coming into the year. And he's already 38 years old, is Martinez. And I just don't see him holding up this big batting average and big power numbers this week. And he's come back down to earth over the last couple weeks here. And those are the type of numbers I expect. 250, 260 average. He'll still have some power, but not that 40 home run type power, in my opinion. And he's been falling down the rankings the last couple weeks and the last few games for him. May 21st at Philly, 2 for 4 with 3 runs. May 22nd at Philly, 0 for 4. May 23rd, he sat that one. May 25th, 0 for 4. And May 26th versus Atlanta, 1 for 4 with a run. So Martinez, he's only got 1 hit in his last 3 games. And we'll see what he does in the upcoming days. And he's got a pretty good series versus Miami. And then the Red Sox go to Houston to end up the month here. So that's a few hitters falling this week here in week 8 of the fantasy baseball season.